welcome back to another episode of Roots and Readers. If this is your first time joining us, I'm Jennifer here at the Hampton Park Library, and today we're going to talk about planning out your garden. This step typically happens before you ever plant your seeds because you don't know what you're going to plant until you've planned out your garden and see how much space you've got. First thing I did was look at the space I had to use as a garden. Here at Hampton Park, I have 8 different raised beds to use for vegetables. Some are full sun, some are partial sun, and one has a built-in trellis. These are all important things to consider when deciding what to plant and where. Another thing you want to do is measure your space. Different plants need different spacing from their neighbors based on how they grow, so you need to know how much space you have in order to decide how many plants you can grow in that space. After I determined what space I was going to use for my vegetables, I decided to draw a map to help me plan it out. You don't have to do this on a computer, or at all, but I recommend at least drawing out a map on scrap paper to help you organize what you'll plant where. Because I'm at the library and I anticipate we might have questions about what is growing, I made a digital map so anyone at the library can pull it up and answer questions about the garden. I color-coded the beds to show what their status is, and I labeled the different beds with the vegetables I plan to grow in them. If you plan to grow vegetables that look similar, this can help you remember what you planted and where. You can also make notes for yourself about whether the plant did well or not so well in that bed. The numbers after the name of the plant indicate how many individual plants that bed can hold, so I know how many seedlings to start. In order to determine how many seedlings to start, I first checked the seed package for growing information. Some of the seeds in our seed library did not have original packaging with it, so I had to go online and look up growing instructions for those. You want to pay close attention to the specific variety of seed when you look up planting instructions. Some varieties are smaller and can be planted closer together, while some spread out more and need to be planted further apart. These instructions are how to plant the green onions. According to my notes, I need 12 inches for each head of iceberg lettuce, 10 inches for each head of cabbage, 12 inches for each broccoli plant, 4 inches for each radish, 3 inches for each beet, there at the bottom, and spinach should be 4 inches apart. The green onions can be grown as close together as 2 inches between each plant. That's one reason I chose green onions instead of full onions for my beds. Since I'm using them as, hopefully, a deterrent to rabbits, I wanted something I could plant around the perimeter of each bed without sacrificing any of my other vegetable space. I've also used marigolds in the past because rabbits don't care for them either, and it gave it a little pop of color. But I also learned another trick. One year I rescued 3 wilted cabbage plants from Walmart and planted them on the side of my house just to see if they would grow. That year, I noticed the wild rabbits ate on those cabbages and left the rest of my veggies alone. I looked around online and found that some gardeners do this on purpose. You can plant some distraction plants away from your beds, near woods or open fields where the animals are more likely to discover them first, and put some deterrents in the beds with the veggies you want to keep. Animals might decide to leave your cherished plants alone because the others are easier to get to. It worked out for me that with 8 different beds, I can plant a good variety of vegetables and keep each bed to strictly one vegetable. If you're planting vegetables together, you need to look and see if the 2 you want to plant near each other will grow well together. Some compete for the same nutrients in the soil, and planting them near each other will cause problems with both. Some nourish each other and protect each other from pests. A quick internet search will give you this information. Now that you know what you want to plant and where you want to plant it, you need to decide if you're going to plant directly into the ground outdoors or start your seeds inside. This depends on where you live, what you're planting, and what time of year it is. A good thing to do is to check the anticipated first frost and freeze dates for your area. One website I like to look at is garden.org. I click on the Tools and Apps tab at the top and then select Frost Dates Lookup. It tells you the anticipated dates to plan for your area. There's a 10% chance that the first frost date will be October 12th, here and coming. That's not a big chance, and most of the vegetables I'm planting this fall will survive a frost, but I decided to plant based on that chance. It is 2020 after all. I can always harvest after that date if we don't have an early winter, but these are all guesses based on past averages in past years. In order to know when to start my seeds, I again check the growing information for each variety of vegetables I'm going to plant and make a note of how long it'll take from seed to harvest. I turn those days into weeks, and I make a list of the dates starting with October the 12th as week 1, and I count back weeks. October 5th would be 2 weeks, September 28th would be 3 weeks, and I go on and on and on back to 10 weeks, because 10 weeks is the longest it's going to take for any of my vegetables to go from seed to harvest. So August the 10th would be the date I would need to start my iceberg lettuce in order to harvest before the first frost. I typically like to start my seeds outside in the soil so I don't have to worry about transplanting them. However, the soil was still too hot in August for the lettuce seeds to germinate, so that made my decision for me. I had to plant them inside, and I started them last month based on that date. I'm not saying it's too late to start them now. I just wanted the best chance to harvest before the frost. The spinach only needs 6 weeks, so I'll be starting those seeds inside this month. Now you may have noticed that the radishes and beets, they show a longer time to grow, just like the greens I mentioned before. The reason I'm going to start them later with the spinach is because they can survive frosts and even some lighter freezes. A frost is when the temperature falls between 32 and 36 degrees, while a freeze is 32 degrees or lower. Letting them grow in cooler temperatures makes them sweeter, while growing them in hotter temperatures makes them tougher and spicier.
One last thing before we end. I wanted to show you the new grow light and the seedlings. I noticed that my seedlings were getting too leggy too quickly and realized I had a problem with my grow light. The light needed to be much closer to the seedlings, but if I moved it, I realized it gave off too much heat. Both issues, heat and not enough light, will make your seedlings grow too quickly for their stems to support them. This is not good. To mitigate the issue, while I waited for an actual seedling grow light to arrive, I moved the light closer and set up a fan to gently blow across the seedlings, simulating wind and encouraging the seedlings to strengthen their stems. After the grow light arrived, I simply cut down a length of PVC pipe and added connectors and made a stand for the light. Now, hopefully, the seedlings will get enough light and won't grow too quickly. I'm waiting for the second set of leaves to come out, the true leaves, before I can start to prepare them to go outdoors, and I'm hoping they don't get too much taller before those leaves appear. As always, the library has wonderful resources to answer all of your gardening questions. Just ask us. At Forsyth County Public Library, we know books.